What did you totally misunderstand as a kid? Sex? I thought you got girls pregnant by kissing them. In 3rd grade, Crystal used to chase me around the recess yard trying to kiss me, and I was absolutely horrified that I would be a 3rd grade with a baby if she got me. It got so serious that we ended up in the principal's office when I pushed her down while trying to kiss me. I explained to him exactly why I was so scared, and I still remember the laughter from the adults in the room. This is amazing. I would totally laugh. When I was 6, I found out how babies were made and turned to my best guy friend, who I was going to marry, and told him I would never want to do that. So I suggested when the time came we just rubbed bellies and hoped for the best. My dad was such a terrible highway driver that when we went on our annual vacation, he inevitably got into a car accident, usually a minor fender bender. I thought that every trip needed to include an accident and would pester him while on the road. When's the accident going to happen? When's it gonna happen? I heard a radio news story about a guy who said that Coke has dissolved away the inside of his nose. I thought that he meant Coca-Cola. I got scared every time I burped Coke and it made my nose sting. I thought the 7 and 7-Up was a tea, so referred to it as a can of top until I was 13. You're the most 1337 person ever. I thought drinking and driving referred to any type of beverage, so when my uncle took a Coke for the road I was shocked. I think everyone misunderstands this at first. I mean, drinking and driving isn't exactly transparent, especially for a young one who probably knows very little about alcohol, if anything. I'd always heard that you could only survive a couple days without drinking water. Well, I stayed with my southern grandparents for likely 2 weeks. During that time I drank nothing but iced tea. I was really worried that I was going to die soon. If they heard you refer to it as iced tea, then you probably would have died. I thought Albert Einstein created and gave life to a monster called Frank Einstein, and that's why he was considered a genius. 10/10 would watch this cartoon. Somehow I understood that mannequins in department stores were made from real people. My mom couldn't understand why I stayed so close when we went shopping. I thought when you moved somewhere, you had to find a person in that town who needed to move to your town and then swap homes with them. I used to think this too. When it was explained to me that no, that wasn't the case, I thought it had to be a bigger chain that was organized as one transaction. That is, House A sold to person B, House B sold to person C, House C sold to person D, House N sold to person A. When people said I'm serving so my kids don't have to, I assumed that meant your kids were forced in the military if you didn't do it. Kids are literal. I didn't realize John Lennon was a different person than Lenin, the Soviet premier, as the names are pronounced almost the same and both had a huge impact in the 20th century. The world made a lot more sense once that one got cleared up. I had similar confusion about the Marx Brothers. I thought Cole was just the communist of the bunch. Before I ever had the talk, I inferred that babies were made when two people kiss and their germs mix. I wasn't that far off. My dad always told me not to hold hands because I'd get pregnant. I took that crap seriously. So when I finally found out about how baby making actually works, I yelled at my dad for making me believe that tale for so long. His response was, "But it does get you pregnant. Holding hands leads to kissing, which leads to taking clothes off, which leads to making babies. I'll never win with that man." The D in Disney looked like a G and I never wrapped my head around it till I was at least 15. Sad because I knew the word but the letter threw me off like nobody's business. Gisnep. I thought that if John Kerry was elected president, he'd change the lineup of shows on Nickelodeon, and that's why 8-year-old me was a Republican. I had heard that Bush would reinstitute slavery if he won in 2000, which is why I was a Republican. I thought he was a Democrat. I didn't understand that TV shows were recorded, so when I saw the actors jumping in age from young to old and vice versa in the span of a week, I thought it was some type of wizardry. In the same vein, I thought death scenes were filmed with death row inmates acting as stunt doubles. I was raised very Catholic. For some reason I thought a person's torso was called their body, so when I learned that when people die, their body stayed on earth while the rest of them went to heaven, I thought upon death, a person's head, arms, and legs flew off and went into the sky. I also thought people had funerals for torsos. It was pretty metal. I thought for a very, almost too long, time that an only child was pronounced lonely child because they had no siblings. You're not entirely wrong though. Getting fired meant that you were set on fire. The hospitality industry would literally be heck instead of just figuratively being heck. When I was in pre-K I was walking down the hall to recess, just chilling out with one of my friends, when I saw one of those handprints made out of paper with a student's name on it. You know, the ones you have all your kids make and then you put them on your door. Anyways, the name on this one was Jesus. Me. Look, Jose, there's a kid named Jesus. Jose, it's Jesus. Me. I've read my children's Bible 5 times. I think I know how to say Jesus. Jose, no, it's a Mexican name. You say the G's like H's, like with my name. Me. Jose does not have a J. Jose, I know how to spell my name. Me. I know how to spell Jesus. We fought about it for at least 5 minutes. I was not a fun kid. You were born ready for it. I thought everyone lived to the exact same age. Like my brother taunted me for being 3 years younger than him. But in my mind it was no sweat because I was gonna be alive for 3 years after he died. Driving past a cul-de-sac and it saying no outlet. How did they get their electricity? I overheard reporters talking about the Gulf War, which I assumed was the Gulf War. I imagined guys lined up drilling golf balls at each other. I thought everybody had a mommy or daddy in jail or prison. There were always other kids there. My cousins and friends did. Also thought it was a game when the cops came. One family member would sneak out the back of the trailer and hide in the trailer across the street. Totally thought cops were in on this. Row. Now playing at a theater near you. I thought a theater near you that was a specific theater in the city an hour away from home. Because living in a small town, if you wanted to see a movie as soon as it came out we had to go to the city. Same. I definitely thought they were talking directly to me. When I was going into middle school, we had a choice of learning either French or Spanish. I remembered what my family said about Spanish speakers taking over America, so naturally, I chose Spanish so I could interact with our eventual overlords. Turns out my family is just hardcore conservative and taking over meant something different than what I originally thought they meant. To be fair though, Spanish is a very useful language to be familiar with, especially in America where it's the second most spoken language. No one is taking over of course, but you can't convince hardliners of anything. Source: I also come from a family of hardcore conservatives who probably think that Spanish speaking people could take over. I misunderstood cardinal directions. I thought north was always in front of me. I misunderstood my family taking me to see the circus. I thought all the animals and people were there to see me. I misunderstood cashiers. I thought they had all that money and items. I misunderstood sex, despite learning about it from a book that was supposed to scientifically show it in the way kids understand. I thought a giant sperm climbs up the woman's leg as the couple holds hands. The more I think about the last one, the more frightening and horrifying it seems. Back when I was in kindergarten we were learning about MLK and the civil rights movement. Specifically, I remember my teacher reading to us from a children's book. For some reason, however, my understanding of the situation was not that it had anything to do with race. I didn't understand the concept back then, but rather that the blacks were a bunch of dudes who wore black suits and the whites were a bunch of dudes who wore white suits. And that until recently, those who wore black suits were treated horribly, and it took a lot of social upheaval and change for people to be able to wear black suits without judgment. That girls didn't pee out of their whiners, so they must have peed out their butt. I thought the exact same. Whenever I had diarrhea I thought to myself, so this is what it's like to pee like a girl. 60% of what I misunderstood can be blamed on my dad for being a troll. Trolls are mythical creatures, so looks like you can add the misunderstanding of your dad's species to the list. I thought blisters were a punishment for wearing your shoes on the wrong feet, and that if you did, the blister truck would catch you and hit your feet with a blister stick. Wear your shoes on the right feet or they'll give you blisters. Mom meant the shoes. My paranoid overactive 5-year-old brain pictured some sort of terrible ice cream truck that doles out punishment. When I heard phrases like smoking kills as a kid I genuinely thought you would just drop dead randomly. So when my dad would be smoking his cigarette I would start crying because I thought there was a chance he would just up and disappear. Also, I thought clouds came from smokestacks. I was sent to a Christian elementary school and for quite a while, I thought Jesus was in heck. The way it had been explained to me, the reason people went to heaven was because Jesus suffered for our sins, and we shouldn't sin because it hurts Jesus. I took this to mean that he literally went to heck and suffers for us, keeping more or less an open tab for all humanity. Thus, when we sinned, he had to suffer that much more to ensure our passage into heaven. I don't recall ever being specifically corrected. I just noticed over the course of time that this view didn't really sync with some things that others said. When I got the traditional story it made even less sense to me. I didn't last long as a Christian. I thought the tale of Jesus ended with him in heck. It actually didn't. I misunderstood checks. I thought you could pay with them like cash. I hid one of my birthday checks when I was 10 and tried to buy something with it. The cashier was amused. When the weather guy on TV would mention the wind chill factor, I thought he was saying windshield factory. My reasoning was that they would go to the auto plants and check to see if the windshields were cracking because of the cold. Based on how cracked the glass was they could tell you how cold it was outside. Made perfect sense to me. When I was 11 years old, a girl in my class was called Hrund. I'm Icelandic. The thing is that the Icelandic word for CM is brund. You can see where this is going. So all the boys started calling her that, but I had no clue why. I just thought it was a fun nickname, like Trund, or Crund or Srund or something. I had no idea I was bullying a girl by calling her CM for months. When I was a kid, I thought that at the end of the day, people who worked at pet stores took the pets home with them. This is such a cute idea. I like the image of an old lady being like, come on, everyone, and all the little animals following her home. In an attempt to teach me about safe sex, my dad told me if you had sex the wrong way you could get sick. I thought the physical act, the thrusting and such, had to be performed an exact way or else you would catch a cold or something. I thought when my mother was making grilled cheese sandwiches that she was making grilled cheese. I had no idea what grilled cheese is, but I dang sure knew I loved it. Although the phrase God forbid was God forbid, going once, going twice, sold. The concept of gestation. I thought children gestated for 3 years because my parents got married 3 years before having me. Boy did I look stupid in front of my 3rd grade class. I was very sure you could milk all animals like a cow. I have vague memories of trying to milk a dog. I used to think I could breathe through my nose only because one time a dentist poked the roof of my mouth. I thought I was special and other people could only smell with their noses. Mine could fricking breathe. Not sure how long I thought that, but it was probably somewhere up until I was 7-8. I thought closing my mouth was the same as holding my breath, so I could do it way longer than my friends. Those dummies didn't know I was breathing out of my nose either. I thought Silicon Valley was about fake boobies. I thought the Gulf War was at the Gulf of Mexico. I thought that all cats were girls and all dogs were boys. I know it's wrong, but I still have that mindset. Even after owners tell me their pets' names and sexes, my mind will quickly revert back to calling cats she and dogs he. You have spotted this beautiful tasty sea of bacon. You can have as much as you want as long as you subscribe in the next 22 seconds. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check out another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day, you magnificent people.